Chapter 18. To Wager with a Prophet. Courier mail by way of Blackwing arrives at our location. The flying serpentine, with 2 limbs for hooking prey, latches itself onto my forearm. How did this thing know to find us out here? And who could have sent it? Did we perhaps leave any belongings behind with our scent somewhere? A velvet pouch is included with a sealed letter secured to the 3-eyed traveler's coiling tail. I begin undoing the seal and unwrapping the fabric. A brilliant ruby gem is exposed to Sa's light, which causes a bubbling reaction in the core of the stone. As the foaming ceases, a thin beam of red radiance emits and summons a shifting portal directly ahead of us. A large and well-armored Tamasu equipped with a gargantuan greatsword slung across his back, and his young, feeble-looking companion, who is garbed in a woolen vest and hood and wrapped in bandages, emerge from the gateway. The towering Tamasu, fitted upon his skull with a helm of recurved horns, has an interwoven and long beard, indicating a decorated experience of war. It is a custom of their kind to maintain an uncut mane and braided beard after seeing their first war, and then to sever it ought they ever to be cut down and yet survive in a show of branding themselves as failures. The Tamas are a proud race who ironically need wear their shame if they ever be cursed with it. Judging solely from Saba's countenance, these are the very Tamasu he was speaking of just a hair's moment ago. Saba grips me by the cloth of my torso and shifts the ground beneath us, pulling us backwards and creating a considerable gap between them and us.
"We cannot stand near the Exalted One,"
Saba warns me, panicked and distressed. The senior of the 2 takes 1 step forward, then kneels.
"I am Enea, War Chieftain, the Queen's supreme battlemonger and head commander of the Tamas military. My Salvadaya, Relindor the Venerable, extends his most humble greetings to you. He is the leader of the merciless Zyathori."
One by one, the swarming insects near Relindor petrify mid-flight and plummet to their demise. Eviar continues.
"Born into our warrior race, a promising boy showed a limitless potential. So much, in fact, that he was banished from any population-dense areas in light of his crippling aura. Cities, villages, and so forth denied him. The young Salvadaya wandered the whole of Oma's expansive continent, wheresoever permitted his souls. He walked until his feet bled, and then crawled when he could not in order to give his legs rest before their next shift. He had lapped the mainland by the time of his would-be final collapse. The youthful one had arrived at an oasis, one of substantial enormity, where he at last fainted and fell into a deep slumber. After regaining consciousness, the oasis was nothing more than a deteriorated wasteland amidst the sea of sand that is the vast desert. It would have been his eternal resting place if not for the Zyathori. However, back then they were not known as such. They were a nameless tribe, one that did not care for anything but strength. That fateful day, they had lost the oasis which was under their territory, but gained a new member. One who would penetrate through their ranks and secure the title of their clan master in mere seasons. Eventually, Relindor would ascend to a position equal to an authority matching my own as the war chieftain. In this time, the Zyathori elevated themselves to the elite guard and personal mercenaries of the Queen to be called upon whensoever she had need of them, and thus their recognition earned their leader preeminence. He is revered by most and feared by all. Even his original banishers now worship him. Relindor emits an aggressive radiation at all times. Because of this, he may never remain in one area for too long. And thus, for the sake of those he cherishes, he continues to wander Oma, launching operations for the rest of his keep, sometimes from across limitless spans. I am the only being in this entire world that may stand near the master of the Zyathori for extended periods without suffering unimaginable pains or wishing to end my own life. Rilindor presents himself in front of you this day to both commemorate your strength as well as to punish your actions.
Eviar resumes his citadel-like stature. Why tell us all of this? Are you not here simply to execute us? I shout.
We are no assassins. The nature of our business is more forthright than that. I gave you the prerogative of knowing your killers' names as well as their merits. You ought to be grateful for as much. To know that your death will be guaranteed by the hands of the best is a worthwhile privilege.
Calmly, Eviar equips his monstrous greatsword, gradually sliding it from its sheath. Upon its folder reads, Wolfbane. And at the completion of the slow draw, he explosively charges towards us. Saba comes into contact with the right wall of the canyon, sending a protruding block from Eviar's blind spot directly at him, pinning him against the adjacent wall. One moment I'm gullible enough to believe he's trapped, and then the next, Eviar punches his way through the dense metamorphic stones with his one free and bare fist. I prepare to transform, though he does not intend to give me the benefit. Eviar hurls his greatsword at me. I roll to the left, evading the whirling wolfbane, but he predicts my path and beats me to it. He looses two spear-like jabs, which I dodge and parry respectively. Despite this, their tremendous weight is still felt. Nevertheless, his following axe kick catches me by surprise, and though it barely grazes me, I sense the monumental pressure behind his melee. I mustn't be hasty. I need to calculate my exchanges with him carefully, lest I risk being delivered to an early grave in one blow. Saba rattles the ground beneath Eviar, but his footwork is far too sturdy, and he is unbelievably crafty. He's countering everything I throw at him. Without reprise, Eviar chains a combination of kicking my left knee inwards, shifting my balance, and using the momentum of my heavy slant to toss and flip me over his shoulder and onto my back. I watch as blood and saliva burst from my throat and out of my mouth upon impact. His throws are gruesome. Saba sweeps me away by the sand beneath me, then helps me to recover my footing. Eviar casually walks to his greatsword.
Make me try,
Eviar growls. Command! Versatile! Command! Mimic Draken Stage 2! As the lustrous flash of my metamorphosis recedes, I am greeted by the awe-stricken face of Eviar.
Interesting. I am not sure what you are, but I am certain you stand with far greater vigor now.
He smiles maniacally. The warmonger finds my ascended form amusing. He is most certainly dangerous if he can feel my power and dwindle the threat it poses to mere sport. I glance over at Saba, whose gaze is fixated on Rilindor. The adolescent stands unwavering and unbothered. Why is it that your Salvadaya sits idle? Does his edict not command his sole involvement from this point? I ask this of Eviar with hopes to better understand their actions and to buy some much-needed time, which seems curiously premeditated.
I am no Zyathori. Hence, I do not adhere to their creed. Furthermore, I accompany the young Salvadaya on behalf of the Tamos nation. The two of you have angered just about every corner of Oma unabridged.
He grins maliciously as he finishes.
As for Rilindor, he has been fighting since even before our fated introduction.
Well, what could he possibly mean? Has his radiation already targeted us? No, I see it now. I was not paying enough attention to detail whilst we heeded Eviar's forward, nor when engaging him in battle. This radiation he spoke of, it is unseeable by the naked eye, but my track command is enhanced in this state, thus I can sense their trailings. Minuscule spores of light are shooting outward from Rilindor at incredible speeds and in controlled numbers. It seems most of them are being directed to and through Saba and I. I do indeed feel a bit weaker. Although, I had attributed this to our being drained from our constant travel and our trying quest. Saba, we must eliminate Realendor first.
EVR wouldn't let us get within sword's reach, let alone we ought not underestimate the Salvadire's close quarters effectiveness.
His expression is final. He does not intend on testing it. What then? Are we to simply lay down and die? Be turned into cooked corpses in the desert? I shake Saba for an answer. The opportunity to respond is stolen from him by a roaring, high-pitched whistle and bang. The thundering culprit, revealed to be a flash of lightning, shreds through the canyon, completely scorching and splitting the arid ground. As the smoke and debris clears, I examine the aftermath. The area and vicinity where our opponent stood is blackened and torn. In the manner of a split second, EVR was able to shoot over to Realendor and to shield him with his own body. The totality of the plate and mail upon his back has been burnt to a nihility. It is as though the armor was vanquished from reality itself. The flesh of EVR's back somehow miraculously is left with but a slight tinge and burn. That power, this signature, it is the captain's! And there he stands, adorned in his vested and languid gear of bronze and blue, fitted with his feathered head wrap, mounted atop the west cliff of the canyon.
That used to hurt more.
EVR stammers beneath his breath as he stands erect again.
Right. Well, we all knew that it would inevitably come to this, EVR. I ought to have slain you the second time we met in battle.
Yindra descends from his advantageous position and joins us on the ground. I look over to Saba. What does he mean by that used to hurt more?
EVR cells replicate at a cancerous rate, but rather than turning into tumors, they further condense into layered muscle and bone mass. Ultimately, the older he grows, the stronger he gets.
Now I understand why Saba is so terribly afraid of these two. And Yindra? He had the chance to end EVR in the past, yet he did not take it? Why?
You'd be so damn bored without me. You know there isn't another soul on Oma that can contend with you. You need me. Thus, like any drug, if you do not eventually overcome it, it shall overcome you.
EVR begins to approach Yindra, but halts himself several amma from him. I can sense the captain's bubbling dramatically. The atmosphere fills with an obscured static. We need to clear out of here, and it seems as though Saba has come to a similar conclusion. We sprint and scale up the west wall and gain Yindra's prior point of ambush.
It has all come in the time due, and this will undoubtedly be the last of our splendid duels,
the captain says. Yindra and EVR simper in their competitive zeal, and then thrust themselves towards one another. The captain vanishes into the flash of his aura, fusing himself with a branched bolt hurled from the sky, whilst EVR's charge leaves his shadow in an unnatural delay before it relentlessly drags behind and follows his advance. Their deafening collision is far too instantaneous to comprehend visually, but the impact is heard and felt in the pit of my stomach. To think, even when I've grown so tremendously in my own speed, I yet pale in theirs. After a disorienting juncture, I realign my focus and gain back my hearing. The two lifelong rivals are yet exchanging blows. EVR leads the onslaught and sets the pace with his wolfbane, whilst Yindra calmly counters and ensures he keeps up, cautiously placing a secure distance between them ensuing each strike. EVR swings and stomps monstrously. Yindra lobs bolts of pure lightning and evades elegantly. Suddenly, as I am distracted by the battle of two of the mightiest beings on Oma, the floor beneath us splits and collapses like a trapdoor. I sprawl my wings open and float down whilst Saba brings a cushion of dust and rubble upwards, breaking his fall. At first, I had thought this was Saba's doing. Now, however, the real culprit sits, cross-legged, in this small grotto with us. Through my Drakeen acuity and track command, I can sense that his beaming particles of dense light are put on a leash. However, I am getting the impression that he can barely restrain his own power. A gift and a curse.
How is it that you two collude with one another?
Realendor speaks slowly with crisp, crackling vocals. It is strained like Kishnu's was, but there is yet an etiquette to his verbal expression.
We cannot be inside of here with you,
Saba frantically hollers. He cannot feel that the Zyathori leader holds his dreadful force in check, leastwise at present.
Fear not, brother,
He gasps before continuing.
I am in grief for my clansfolk, for I could not alter their ways before their passing. But I am also in awe, for the strides that you two have made are leaps and bounds that others could never consider possible.
He directs his focus to the booming battle outside.
Eviar and Yindra get along fair enough. They respect each other's ability and welcome a healthy rivalry. Yet, that is as far as it will ever go, and as much as it will ever be. You two, however, seem to play for one team. This insinuates a partnership of sorts. Outside of Uiti Idurve, such a relationship is non-existent, and is based purely on the context of profit and gain.
He pauses there. It's unnecessary for him to ask. He has hinted that he wishes to know. Saba cuts me short before I can reveal anything.
Great Salvadiah. The wolf and I wish to bridge the widening divide between our races.
He does not desire that he be made aware of the artifacts. Relindor stares and waits for what feels like an hour in the midst of the skirmish raging beyond this enclosure. And we wait, like obedient pets, comprehending our current disposition. Amidst the clapping thunder, we can hear Eviar's ferocious battle cries. I mean no disrespect, but again I am cut short. This time by Relindor.
Wolf, this form, tell me about it.
He leans in closer and tilts his head, looking up at me. Now that I can better study him from a telling distance, I observe that his flesh is rotting beneath the tears and inconsistencies of his bandages. Pressed and burned into his forehead is the symbol of an anchor. My heart plummets into that churning lake of acid housed by my stomach. Saba does not want our adversaries discovering anything in relation to Parias' artifacts, and for good reason. Though he is but a child, I feel as though I cannot elude his clarity by the slickness of tongue. His upbringing was one misguided and mistreated, and thus his maturity is unfaithful to his age and extensively advanced. It is best that I am careful in how I conduct myself with him. He reserves his animosity for now. There is some strength and forgiveness nested within him. Above all, this child's orientation is on par with a wise and aged ruler's. This places me in a strange and splintered predicament. We are on a quest for the sake of all of Oma. A deity and agent of death will soon be thrust upon this world, and we are the only ones capable of returning him to his slumber. Please, Salvadiah, grant us pass and pardon our crimes, if only temporarily. I kneel down to pay further respects, following my addressing him by his highest title. I am truthful, although I purposefully leave out any mention of the relics.
You avoid the question. Do not dance around my curiosity so heartily.
The chaotic particles burst closer to us, given more slack on their tether. Saba has not the slightest clue of the change. I do not aim to displease you, Salvadiah. Our journey is not exclusively one of unification. First, we must quell an ancient device of great peril. For the sake of this, I must refrain from divulging some particulars. I bow, touching my forehead to the ground. Please do not ask about this form again.
Come, we shall have ourselves a wager.
He hollows a sizable breach in the wall beside him, evaporating dirt and rock to oblivion. His radiating fire begins to pull itself back in, condensing into his core. A stone's cast outside, Eviar and Yindra continue their legendary clash. It is a spectacle of dust and particles, blood and muscle and wit.
Ought Eviar defeat Yindra, you will convey that which you wish least to convey. You will tell me of and about everything you are hiding.
His tone ensures his words are final. And if the tables are turned? I ask.
I shall grant you clemency and make certain you are accompanied with skilled escorts for the remainder of your quest.
He speaks justly. I sense no deviation or contradiction between what he speaks and what his semblance portrays. It is strange, for I cannot name the reason I feel this, but I believe that he already knows all. I salute Reelindur, and I do thus as a wolf, though I am rogue. I do thus in this fashion, for I am entrusting my fate to my former captain and Alpha. May he best his nemesis for all of our sake.